Welcome in, everybody, to the CFB Nation All-America podcast. I'm Bill Trocchi, senior editor at sportingnews.com, alongside Bill Bender, our national college football writer at sportingnews.com, and the president of the Football Writers Association of America. We're coming to you live on our CFB Nation YouTube channel again. If you want to subscribe, just go over to youtube.com, search CFB Nation, and click subscribe. Bill, I had a dentist appointment this morning already. Which is
what
not
time
always,
was that?
Yeah, that's not the most pleasant way to start the day, but I think it's more pleasant than what Ole Miss people are going through this week and each day as Lane Kiffin stretches this out. So I want to talk a little bit about Lane Kiffin before we get into our Trocchi Trivia, our Viewer's Guide, and, of course, the Confidence Contest. How you doing?
Doing well, man. And, yeah, what time was that appointment? Like 6?
7:30.
Oh, my gosh. I didn't know the dentist office opened that early.
I know. They try to get you in before work. I didn't, I told you I'm on vacation this week from the sporting news, but still doing our podcast. But when I do it, I thought I would be, you try to get back for work if you're doing the dentist thing or whatever. So that's why it was at 7:30. And I woke up this morning. I was like, oh, man, why did I do this?
No, yeah, that's on you, as we say to the kids so many times. No, excited, obviously, getting in. It's almost like week 13 is a precursor to rivalry week. We've actually probably been preparing more for rivalry week, but that doesn't mean this weekend doesn't have a few possible quirks in the schedule. And of course, yes, we've been talking a lot about Lane Kiffin the last 3 days. There's no doubt.
All right, so let's get into our Trocchi Trivia before we get into discussing about Mr. Kiffin and kind of what can be done about this coaching searches in the middle of the playoff and all that stuff. So, but I want to get into Trocchi Trivia, and it has to do with one of the biggest games of the weekend, USC and Oregon. Let's test your Pacific Northwest, the old Pac-12, Bill. The old Pac-12 is making a reappearance this weekend. So Oregon is 7-2 versus ranked teams at home in 4 years under Dan Lanning. They have their 10th ranked game this weekend. The two teams they lost to were Washington and Indiana. The 7 wins are against 7 different schools. How many can you name? So
since Dan Lanning took over.
Since Dan Lanning took over, they are 7-2 against ranked teams at home. I can give you a hint. None of them are from this year. This is the first ranked team to go to Autzen this year. Well, Indiana went, but they didn't beat them. So this is the years 22, 23, and 24. 7 different ranked teams. Oregon has beaten at home. You're looking for a pencil and a pad of paper to.
I always got to find a pencil in this house.
Get your list
one of those teams
going. I got one right here, but I can't give it to you. So
one of those teams was in it for clicks, I bet. They came in there.
You got that right.
So I'll save the 6 for the other 6 for the end.
Okay, yes.
See if I can get them all.
That's a good one. So anyway, all right. So let's get into Mr. Lane Kiffin. He is essentially considering LSU, considering Florida, considering Ole Miss. And Ole Miss reportedly, and I heard Stu Mandel this morning on his podcast say he stands by his reporting. There is an ultimatum. Lane denied that there is an ultimatum, that they want an answer. But either way, realistically, an answer has to come pretty soon. I don't know if Lane has the delusion that he can just keep carrying this out for weeks. I don't think he does. We saw a development yesterday at Florida that John Summerall withdrew. I don't know if you take that as a sign that Florida's closing in on Kiffin. I kind of did. Or maybe Auburn wants Summerall. I don't know. It's hard to speculate. But you wrote a column on Lane. Talk about some of the issues that you brought up. And then, I wasn't there, but some of the things that we talked about at the college football meeting yesterday.
Well, we wrote about it today. It's Lane's taking us along for the ride, which we happily go on. And he's never, with the exception of FAU, he's never had a bad exit from somewhere. I went all the way back. I was remembering the Al Davis Raiders PowerPoint presentation when he was 33 years old. And I've separated Lane Kiffin's career. I at least have. I think Tennessee, USC, the Raiders is separate from Alabama, OC, FAU, Ole Miss. I think it's two completely different trajectories, but the exits are still ugly. I mean, I was a reporter for Sporting News when he was relieved of his duties before the CFP championship game against Clemson. And then Sark was the guy that replaced him, of all people. So, and yesterday it was just so ironic in some ways that Sark was reaffirming that he's not going anywhere. He's staying at Texas, and Kiffin's still stringing us along. And I made it very clear, and there was some pushback on this. If he leaves Ole Miss this week for Florida, he's not coaching the playoff game. I don't think he will. I don't think they'll let him. That's the SEC. Like, I don't think they'll let him coach through signing day at Ole Miss. So there's your mess. And it could be the biggest mess of all. And that's saying something when it comes to Lane Kiffin. So if he does leave, or Lane being Lane with the chapters from the book that he keeps posting, the pivot year every day, and he could just be being Lane and trolling us all and then stay at Ole Miss, and I would be less surprised. So all of these scenarios at work, it's given us endless content for our listeners. Go read my column, see if you agree with me.
Give me percentages. LSU, Florida, Ole Miss. Who's in the lead?
I think 33 each.
Wow.
Like I think it's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Florida seems to be probably a little, maybe 40. Maybe it's 40 Florida, 40 Ole Miss.
40, 30, 30.
40, 40, 20. I'll give LSU 20 because I still think they're in a spot where they're not ready to hire a coach right now because of what's going, structurally, they're probably not ready to fire or hire a coach. So I'll go 40, 40. LSU.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Florida's a little more organized than LSU at this point. He's from Florida. It seems like that would be the better landing spot. I know LSU has won national championships recently, but someone brought an interesting point up that I heard. If you're the committee and you penalized Florida State for losing Jordan Travis, do you penalize Ole Miss for losing Lane Kiffin?
No, because you're penalizing kids.
Well, you penalizing the Florida State kids too.
Yeah, they did, but that was I get it, but I don't think they can. I don't think they will, and I don't think they can. An injury is different than an adult leaving. That would be my they're probably gonna go 11-1. Although, given the Egg Bowl,
play caller, that's the thing. Like Michigan kept winning without their head coach. They're 8-0 with the suspended head coach. I don't think Harbaugh and Sharon, they didn't call plays on offense or defense, did they? So
Sharon was the offensive coordinator the year that they won the national title.
I know,
so
but
that was a big deal. Like it's still, I mean, it was, but it wasn't. Like I think that's a different situation. I think Michigan, they don't have time to go down that one because now you got Michigan talking about going independent now, and I don't necessarily disagree with them. So that's probably a podcast where we need Driscoll on here because I would actually be agreeing with him, I think. No, and Father Penny's,
it would hurt Ole Miss. If Lane's a good play caller,
it would absolutely hurt them, but their coach is gone, so we're going to drop them to 14 because they're 11.
No, I don't necessarily think all the way out, but I don't know. Maybe they're seeding. Maybe
they would probably drop to 10. I could see them dropping a few seeds, and then they could avoid this is the biggest impact of if he leaves. It's not, to me, Florida 5 years from now. It's not what happens to Ole Miss 5 years from now, because here's the thing. I was talking to my good friend Romando Dixon. He's used to work in Mississippi for the Clarion Ledger. He works in Illinois now. We kind of came up together as journalists, and he had a great point when we were talking about this. Like, Ole Miss is actually handling this wrong. It probably should have said, Lane, take all the time you need. And if you take that job, Like, if he takes that job after the season, fine. Ole Miss can go hire John Summerall, by the way, or somebody like that. You know, they're not going to have the candidates for that job that Florida and LSU do. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but
I feel like they're worried Summerall is going to go to Auburn before they can grab him, and they're going to be left out in the cold.
and that Summerall could be like the piece here, and you're not wrong. Like, whether it's Auburn or Ole Miss or wherever, I think I've thought since Monday that I have nothing to like back this up, but just I think Lane's gone. I think he's going to go somewhere else, and I think the mess is, what do we do about the playoff? Because yes, like, they're not going to let him coach through the playoff, in my opinion. They're probably going to have a home game. Imagine that scene. What if it's Alabama rolling in there, which is like around the projected matchup right now, and the committee and the playoff looks dumb? That college football looks stupid at that point, that you have a coach that's willing to leave a team that's going to the college football playoff I think for the first time all the way through the 4, right? Like, we didn't have a lame duck coach coaching a playoff game in the 4-team era. This would be the first time we have that. And I think it's a potentially huge story because it's Lane Kiffin on top of everything else.
Right. Brian Kelly left Cincinnati before they played in the Sugar Bowl against Florida.
Yeah.
That obviously wasn't a playoff game. They didn't have a playoff back then. It was going to be the biggest game in Cincinnati history, and he left. So that wasn't great, but it's still not this.
And I compared it to Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma for USC, but Oklahoma wasn't in the SEC then, right? Like, it's a big deal when I just can't picture it at all. And this is already a guy that left Tennessee, and you know they already don't like him either. And it'll create a lot of headlines. It long term, it's great for the SEC that you throw Lane Kiffin down at Florida. Just adds to all the rivalry and all the things that make college football special. Short term, it would create quite a mess for the college football playoff committee. There's no question.
One other issue I wanted to touch on real quick is the fact that teams are worried about playing in their conference championship game and losing and being hurt, and whether or not you should be penalized if you lose your conference championship game. And so SMU last year, they lost on a last-second field goal, 50-yard field goal to Clemson, still made the playoff. But I looked, they were dinged. They dropped 2 spots in the rankings for losing it. So do you think it's fair for a team like Alabama, let's say right now? They are the last team in. If they beat Auburn, they're still going to be in that neighborhood. And then if they lose to Texas A&M in the SEC championship game, they're right on that cut line. Should they be penalized for losing that game and be bumped out of the field?
No. And, well, I mean, you already know my solution. My solution is let's stop playing these games. I mean, they don't have value to me outside. Like, last year, you know what the annoying thing was? When, as good as the ACC championship game was, SMU was down by a lot, right? And we're like, they're out. Oh, now they're in because they rallied. That's stupid. Like, so your standard is they played a close game. I mean, first of all, I just don't see the value in them as much as I used to. I know Mike DeCourcy would disagree, and you want to play for a conference title, but every other division in college football, you know, like D3, the Ohio Athletic Conference doesn't play. They go straight to the playoff. So what we should do now. I mean, we know who the playoff teams are. The ACC is so messy. It's like, are you really going to throw Duke and Charlotte? Still could happen, by the way. I don't. But to answer your question, in the confines of it, no, you shouldn't be penalized. Like,
so it should be a risk-free game, because my point is that the NCAA basketball tournament, they have these conference tournaments, and the committee is on the record as saying every game's the same. Every data point is a data point, and that's it. Win, lose, or draw. So if you make your conference tournament final and lose, like, it's still a loss. If you're on the bubble, it's gonna count. It's gonna ding you just as much as it would ding you any other time. Football, we're not there yet. It's 2 different animals, a lot fewer games. But do you think it should be a data point and you do get dinged for a loss, or you think like Alabama, like that's my example, they're on the cut line, they lose the SEC championship game, should they drop?
I mean, they might. It depends on the game, I guess. I mean, and again, we'll be
What's
watching the
your
score.
opinion? I want your opinion.
Oh, I don't think they should be dinged at all. Like those should be more. I don't know why we're desperately trying to turn college football into college basketball. It's not the same thing to me. Like when Purdue and Wisconsin playing the Big Ten basketball championship game, I'm just kind of like, they actually ding them a little bit because that's always the last team they seed sometimes. But like last year, I was like, well, that game didn't matter because they seeded the winner 4 and the loser 3 or something. It was something like that. I was like, well, why did they even play that game? I do enjoy the basketball conference tournaments more than the Big Ten and SEC championship now. Like, again, I was watching, or I really didn't watch Oregon and Penn State that hard last year because I was thinking, doesn't matter. They're both in. I did watch Georgia and Texas, though. That was a really cool SEC championship game, even knowing, hey, they're both in. There needs to be more consequences to them, I suppose. But I think the ACC is bringing this up in the Big 12 because they probably feel those consequences more than the SEC and the Big 10. And I think this is where it's all rooted in. Like BYU could go 11-1 and then lose 11-2 and they're out. So the Big 12 would be like, hey, why do we have to pay consequences for it if they don't? Who's the other one? Whoever the ACC championship game is, I have no idea. Georgia Pitt winner versus Virginia. Losers probably out, but Pitt might have 4 losses at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting deal. So, all right, let's get into the viewer's guide. All right, Friday night we got Florida State at NC State is the Friday night game on ESPN, 8:00 before the season. This one looked like it might be important, but we've somehow got 2 teams that are actually not in the ACC championship game hunt, the few that aren't. So Friday night, but you can keep an eye on that one before we get into Saturday. So Saturday, the noon window. We've got Missouri at number 8, Oklahoma, noon on ABC. Oklahoma is a 7.5-point favorite. This was a wild one last year. There were 4 touchdowns in the last 3 minutes of the game. OU tied the game 16-16 with 3 minutes left, then returned a fumble for a touchdown to go up 23-16. Missouri drove the field and tied it. And then they had a scoop and score with like 30 seconds left. So it was a wild finish, and we might have another one this year. Missouri, good defense. Oklahoma, elite defense. They've set their offense up as short fields in games against Tennessee and Alabama that helped them win. Mateer, they haven't needed the fireworks from him. We don't know if he's going to regain the form he had early in the season. One note in this game, too, Missouri quarterback Bo Pribula actually warmed up last week before the Mississippi State game. They held him out, but indications are he may play this weekend.
That changes the dynamics a little bit, obviously. I mean, the line has gone down almost 2 points. Ahmad Hardy had 300 rushing yards last week. I mean, in any other season, that would be Heisman worthy right there. That would be,
I know.
Like, oh, I just kind of casually came across that while I was doing picks. But can Missouri run the ball in Oklahoma? Oklahoma really good at stopping the run. Alabama couldn't run the football on them, and I know they threw it around the yard. I don't know if Missouri has the same capabilities. And they're at Oklahoma, so this is an opportunity for the Sooners to inch one. I do think a 10-win Sooners team is absolutely in the playoff because this is the other side of that argument I always make because of that victory against Michigan in non-conference play. That's a nice one to have in the back pocket when you're making your case.
Very true. Very true. So yeah, that's going to be a great SEC game at noon, like we said on ABC. Keep the clicker handy. We've got Miami at Virginia Tech, noon on ESPN. We've got Rutgers at number 1 Ohio State, noon on Fox, and then Louisville at SMU, for those still paying attention to that AFC championship race, noon on ESPN2. Thoughts on that one? I'm sure there'll be a lot of eyes on Miami this weekend.
Yeah, Miami and SMU. SMU still has a path to the ACC championship game as well, and they have that victory against Miami. And then the Hurricanes, maybe a little bit of beauty contest factor. They felt that they saw that's what happened last week. I think it could happen again here this week. James Franklin, we were talking about yesterday in our meeting that James Franklin will probably get the guest ESPN booth appearance during the game, so you'll get to hear that. We talked about him earlier in the week. I mean, yeah, he'll energize that program. He'll definitely throw some energy into that program. He even threw a jab at Penn State yesterday about the airport on the way out. So
did he really?
Yeah, he said something to the effect of, "It's nice to be somewhere so close to the airport," or something like that. So I mean, he's still got a couple jabs in him, and I think, yeah, Miami's got to pour it on and make it look good so they can really force this Notre Dame debate that everybody's getting into online. And you know what? Not catering to the listeners here, but I still think Notre Dame has that argument right now. It's weird. Like, I just think Notre Dame's playing really well. And yes, they lost the head-to-head. And if it gets to the end and they're both 10-2 and Miami doesn't have an obvious path to the ACC championship game, they're probably going to be left out. And people are going to be mad that Notre Dame's in, and that's too bad.
Yeah. No, that Miami-Notre Dame debate is not going anywhere. So people are going to be paying attention to how the Hurricanes do down in Blacksburg on Saturday afternoon window. Number 15 USC at number 7 Oregon, 3:30 on CBS. What's it doing on CBS?
Yeah.
CBS finally gets a great game, actually. They were 9th in the rankings last week. They had Penn State, Michigan State, I think.
They had Iowa. Didn't they have Iowa, Oregon the week before? That wasn't a bad game.
They did. They did.
Come on now. Give those guys credit. Like Daniel said, they've had Indiana, Oregon. This is Oregon's mulligan weekend, right? Like, this is game day is going to be there again. USC, like, I'm going through this list. I think I've got 5 of them, and I'm not sure if USC is one of the teams that should be on that list of 7 ranked opponents that have rolled through Autzen. It's a tremendous opportunity. This is a huge game for the Big Ten and trying to get that 4th team in. There's only 2 scenarios where the Big Ten gets 4 teams in. One of them is this one. USC beats Oregon. Both teams win next week. Both teams finish 10-2. The other is Michigan beats Ohio State next week. And other part of our conversation, which we'll get into more next week, I said, nobody in the Sporting News meeting believed me that I said if Ryan Day loses another one to Michigan, it's going to be every bit as ugly, if not more ugly, than it was last year. And yeah, I'll stick to that. Just
more pepper spray. We're gonna need more pepper spray?
You can't lose 5 in a row to Michigan. I'm sorry. And it's just that record. Like I said, we'll get into more of that next week. But his record against Michigan, the 1-4, means more than everything else on his resume. And
including the national championship.
Including whatever his winning percentage is ahead of Newt Rockne. And people that laugh or think that's not true don't live in Ohio or Michigan and don't understand.
Is his winning percentage higher than Lane Kiffin's? Because Lane Kiffin is the greatest college football coach of all time.
If Ohio State loses to Michigan again, I don't know if Ryan Day will be at Ohio State. He'll be one more year, and I think he'd be gone.
Oof. I'm
just saying. Like,
anyway,
we got a full week of that next week.
Yes. Back to USC Oregon. I can't wait to see USC's 2 receivers, right? Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. They're like must-see guys every week. I mean, Ohio State's guys are better, I would think, barely. But these 2, they put on a show. So when you turn this game on, expect some fireworks from the USC receivers. Oregon has a very good defense, so don't expect USC to be putting up mid-30s. But, Indiana scored 30, right, at Autzen. So, I don't know. I can see the Trojans getting
back and forth. They got to slow down Oregon's running game, too. And, it makes for a really fun Big Ten game. I think USC absolutely could win this game. But, I mean, Oregon's kind of, I think they're devaluing them a little bit. And I think it's because they did lose that Indiana game, which was still a close game late. They've kind of just taken care of business. So I think the Ducks are going to win this game. And
yeah, the odds makers are giving them credit. 9.5 is a healthy spread.
In that game, yeah, because they're at home. And I think this is a big spot game. And they got to play Washington. And they need this one, too, because they got to get to that 10-win mark. They're still in position. Remember, they're still in position to be the team that host a playoff game, and USC did lose to Illinois and Notre Dame, who are probably the two. And I know they sliced through Michigan, but they were at home for that one. This is a road game. They did not play well on the road at Illinois or Notre Dame, so it's on them to play well on the road at Oregon.
Yep. Keep the clicker handy at 3:30. We got Arkansas at number 17, Texas. That's the ABC game. Another chance to see Arch. Syracuse at number 9, Notre Dame, 3:30 NBC. The Irish, I think, are like 35.5-point favorites. It's going to be on them to try to run it up. I don't see any way they won't run it up because their defense is playing great. Syracuse's offense is on life support.
Turns the ball over a lot, too.
Yeah, and Notre Dame.
That's going to help.
They're clicking on offense. So I don't – it will be a blowout. I don't know see any way around that one. Kentucky is at number 14, Notre Dame, 3:30 ESPN. I'll be in the stands for that one.
Go.
And then number 18, Michigan at Maryland, 4 o'clock on the Big Ten Network.
Yeah, good window. That game you're going to be at, it's going to be fun because Vanderbilt's one of those teams lurking and trying to get in, So I think they're very interesting. The other end of the Ohio State-Michigan side, Michigan struggled. They still have playoff hope in air quotes, but they have to win both games. And they've had trouble at Maryland in the past, and they might be down to like their 4th running back at this point. They're talking about fullback Ben Bredesen taking snaps at tailback right now. And then so they got to take care of the football even at Maryland, set up that Ohio State game. And then, it just sets up that evening window. But I think your game's worth watching. Kentucky, Vanderbilt, history of close games there. It was close last year. Kentucky's on a little bit of a roll. So, what can they do to maybe slow down Vanderbilt? And if Vanderbilt wins, like I said, they'll be 9-2 heading into that Tennessee game. And one of those teams that would benefit from a little bit of chaos. I still think they have an outside shot of getting in the playoff.
Yeah, look ahead spot for Michigan, obviously. They usually handle it fine, but like you said, injuries may pile up, and that could be a tough one for them on the road. Saturday evening window, we got Pittsburgh at number 16, Georgia Tech, 7 o'clock on ESPN. Georgia Tech is a 2.5-point favorite. Pitt was blown out last week against Notre Dame, though they did not lose by 100 points. This game clinches a spot in Charlotte for Georgia Tech if they can win at home. Tech's defense has obviously sprung a serious leak in the last 2 weeks, and Pitt QB Mason Heinschel is capable of taking advantage. Here are Tech's numbers the last 2 games. Are you ready?
I am.
Boston College, they averaged 16 points a game against all their other ACC opponents, scored 34 against Tech. NC State averaged 26 against all their other ACC opponents. They scored 48 against Tech. So they need to get that fixed. But on the other side, Tech actually, in those 2 games, averaged 594 yards of offense in each game. So it's just, the definition of a shootout right now for the last 2 games for Georgia Tech.
Big 12 football, except they run all the time. That's the game that I think is the most impactful to the playoff race, because I think the winner of that game is going to win the ACC. Yeah, Pitt's path would be, I still think they could beat Miami. Georgia Tech, obviously, if they win that game, you don't want to say it doesn't matter what they do against Georgia. It still matters, of course, but it would set up their shot to win the ACC.
They're in Charlotte. Yeah.
They've probably been the most consistent ACC team, with the exception of the last 2 weeks defensively. Virginia being the other one. So Georgia Tech, Virginia would be the logical ACC championship matchup. It's not sexy, but you at least get one in, and maybe that second team, especially if it was Georgia beating Georgia Tech, would have a little bit of a case. I don't think a 2-loss or 3-loss Virginia team is getting anywhere near the college football playoff.
Exactly. So, yeah, it should be a fun one at Bobby Dodd Stadium. They are, I think it's sold out, and it's going to be a nice atmosphere for that game. So keep the clicker handy in the evening. We got number 11, BYU at Cincinnati on Fox. That's a big one in the Big 12 for sure. Number 20, Tennessee at Florida, 7:30 is the ABC game. down in the SEC. We got Nebraska at Penn State. That's the NBC game at 7:30. Cal at Stanford. If the band goes on the field, Bill, it will be on the ACC network, which is a little strange still. Washington at UCLA, and a little Pac-12 after dark Big Ten version on NBC at 10:30.
Yeah, obviously good late windows. Tennessee, by the way, that's the game. There's a little bit of intrigue for me. I mean, they're obviously probably not going to get in the playoff, but they haven't won in the swamp since 2003.
Wow.
So that's a wild long time, and they've had
I think I remember that game. That game, they moved it to December because of a hurricane in September, and they upset them. Yeah, I remember that.
It's been 22 years, so wow. I mean, can't say Tennessee doesn't have something to play for there. Now imagine getting the fourth quarter or something, and then over the loudspeaker they announce at Ben Hill Griffin that Lane Kiffin is their next coach, and then the Gators come back. That would only add to the, or he shows up at halftime in a visor or something like. Anything and everything with Lane's on the table. So that and that BYU Cincinnati game, that's another key piece, because Cougs got to come up here to Ohio where it's been wet and gross all week. Nipper can be a tough place to play, not for Arizona last week, unfortunately, for the Bearcats. But BYU looked good. I watched them late last night. They bounced back and really took it to TCU last week. So they still have their playoff path wide open before them. They're probably the one team with playoff hopes that absolutely nobody is talking about, because they just assume Texas Tech's going to beat them again.
So what happens if Cincinnati upsets them this weekend? Does it set up a Utah, Texas Tech?
I mean, Utah will definitely benefit, but they're still not ahead of. I think it would create a mess that would probably benefit Utah, if I remember correctly. I know I'll actually pull it up and answer it instead of just giving you a non-answer.
They both had 2 losses.
They do, but then
BYU beat them.
Houston is 5-2. Now, if they get in a pileup of 2-loss teams, and it comes down to the cumulative conference winning percentage tiebreaker, which has got to go through common opponents first. So
Utah would be at the top of that because they played both BYU.
They have the best, and Arizona State has a very good one, by the way. So Arizona State and Houston also 2 losses in conference play. So, from a not clean standpoint, if I'm the Big 12, I'm trying to hope for a way. If BYU loses that game, you want Utah in the Big 12 championship game, even though they lost head-to-head to BYU and Texas Tech, because they're playing unbelievable right now. They've had over 500 yards of offense in their last 3 games, over 50 points. They've been really good. So yeah, it's another way to say that that's another interesting game along the way. And we haven't even mentioned the G5, where Tulane's coach was interviewing and then wasn't interviewing. They're the highest ranked G5 team. There's more, and James Madison plays Washington State this week, and that's a key game in the mix. So this is, for as much as I rail on the 12-team playoff, it is cool that James Madison Washington State is an important game this week instead of one you just scroll past.
Gotcha. All right, let's get into our confidence contest. I got bad news for you, Bill.
Oh, I know. I don't need to hear it. I already know it.
You had a rough week last week.
I'm aware.
I got 5 points. You got 1 point, and you actually got the Virginia Duke swing game between us, but that was the single point. So I have leapfrogged you. It's been a slow climb. You've been ahead all season, and now we're down to week 13. It's Troche 98. Bender 95.5.
I assumed it was much worse, so I'm actually that I can live with that. Oh
yeah, it's only 2.5 points, and it is 2 weeks to go. And I mean, we already know it's going to come down to me taking Ohio State covering at 5, and you taking Michigan at covering at 5, and then that's going to be
the end of it.
So anyway, we'll get into this. We pick 5 games a week, and we order them confidence style, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5 games against the spread, whatever games we want, and we go from there. And so we'll go down the list. I'm going to keep the honor, and it's a 5-pointer for me. I'm taking Georgia Tech. It's only 2.5 points against Pitt, as bad as their defense have been, like I mentioned, their offense has been just as good. It's going to be a really tough environment for Pitt. I think they're a little deflated after last week. I mean, they had game day there and everything. As much as Narduzzi wanted to downplay the game, they got pretty pretty handily. Now they got to pick themselves up. It's Haynes King's last game at Bobby Dodd. I really think it's going to be a pretty electric night in Atlanta. So I'm taking Tech minus 2.5. You're on mute.
I know. I'm digging up my pick here, and I didn't want to make noise while I was doing it. I'm going to take BYU minus 2.5. I was impressed with them. I think they can take the show on the road. Cincinnati's a good team, but BYU will be able to run the football on them and get physical, and they've taken the show on the road a little bit in Big 12 play, not necessarily at Texas Tech, but the theme of my picks this week will be teams that definitely have something to play for, and I think they're one of them. So give me the Cougs.
Okay. My 4-pointer, USC, plus 9.5 at Oregon. I just feel like it's a toss-up game. I think one possession game, touchdown game at most. The USC receivers are just unbelievable, and then they've shown some toughness this year. I thought that win over Iowa was a pretty good one for them. So they haven't proved it on the road yet, but I just think 9.5 is too much. I'm taking USC.
I don't hate that. My 4, I'm going to go Tennessee. Think they're going to break that streak, and they can get up and down, and a lot of that stuff was mental. I think Florida's ready to turn the page on whoever that next coach is. They've had their emotional bump game and all that kind of stuff. They did play hard against Ole Miss last week. They played hard against Georgia. I like that. I respect that. I just think Tennessee's offense, and Tennessee has something to play for here. I think for Heupel, it's like, hey, if we go 9-3, we've got a chance. Hey, we've got to break this damn losing streak at the Swamp that's lasted 22 years. It's probably a stupid pick, but hunch pick. And if they're going to win, it's going to be by more than 4 points. So give me the Vols, and that is a reckless but interesting pick just the same.
Yep. 4.5. I got it as 4.5.
That's fine.
So.
That's fine.
All right. So my 3, you knew I was coming for this one, Bill. It's a Friday night home dog.
There you go.
NC State is getting 4.5 points at home against Florida. NC State is 4-1 at home this year, with only a 2-point loss to Virginia Tech as their only loss. Florida State is 0-3 on the road. So both those factors are in the favor of betting on the home dog on a Friday night. So I'm taking NC State plus 4.5.
It's not a bad pick. I stayed away from that. I stay away from those Friday games, even though I've been hitting them on the Sporting News picks. 3, I'm going to go SMU minus 2.5. I was not impressed with Louisville last week, and SMU, again, they've got something to play for. They've got an inside shot, or not.
They're at home, right?
Yeah, they're home.
Yeah.
2.5 point favorite at home. I mean, I think I've whiffed on SMU a couple times this year, but including week 9, I took them -3, 5 points against Wake, but they were on the road there. They're home here. Give me the Mustangs, an outside chance to get to Charlotte with a little help. So I'm going to take them there.
Very good. All right. I am going my 2-pointer. I'm taking Arizona State -7.
I like that one.
At Colorado. No real reason to believe in the Buffs at this point. I mean, Julian Lewis actually had a pretty good game last time out, but they lost by 7 to West Virginia. Arizona State's coming off a bye week, and their last game they beat West Virginia, even though they've got Jeff Sims at QB. He's actually been okay. Last week against West Virginia, or 2 weeks ago, was his best game so far. I think the crowd's going to be kind of flat in Colorado. The shine is off a little bit. Deion's defending himself about, haven't forgotten how to coach type of thing. So I don't know. I don't like the vibes around Colorado right now. So I'm going to take Arizona State.
I don't hate that. Big swing game for us then, because I'm going to take the Ducks -9.5. So, and everything you said about USC is true, but Oregon's at home, and I think Dan Lanning's sitting on that statement game. They were able to go to Iowa and win, which was nice. USC beat Iowa in similar fashion. And USC was at home in the rain, and it was impressive. But I could see Oregon, this being tight all the way through, and Oregon scoring like a cosmetic type touchdown that puts them up by 10, and it's right at 9.5. So I might as well take it. Give me the Ducks.
You're looking for the backdoor cover.
Or they could just blow them out, which they do at home all the time. So in these big games. So, I mean, I'm taking Oregon. I think they lock up their playoff spot this weekend and put the Big Ten in a rough position where they only have 3 teams in the college football playoff.
Big swing game for us. That's a 6-point swing right there. So my 1-pointer, I'm taking Minnesota plus 3.5 against Northwestern at Wrigley Field. I just have the theory. I picked Northwestern last week and it came through, but if you go 5-0 on turnovers and you still can't win the game, you're gonna, that shows you something about the state of Northwestern. They couldn't punch it in against Michigan at all. Minnesota is like they're middle of the pack. I don't know. I just will kind of.
That game said a lot about both teams.
Yeah,
and not in a good way. Though watching a game at Wrigley was pretty cool. I hate the Cubs. So I despise the Cubs, but that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm going to take the 3.5. I figure even if Northwestern wins, it won't be by more than 3.
What do you have the Ohio State line at?
Oh boy,
31.5, I think, right?
Yeah, actually, it was a little lower than Notre Dame's, which I was kind of surprised.
I'm going to take the Buckeyes there. I think they'll win at least 42-10. It's senior day, and they're going to get their momentum going ahead of. I don't know if Carnell Tate or Jeremiah Smith or either plays, and I don't really care.
31.5. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they'll win like 42-10. The big debate right now is Bella has a game at noon in Upper Arlington basketball game. And, we're worried about,
You're the coach, right? You're the coach.
Yes. We have to go through Columbus and go through Ohio, like basically where Ohio. So the big concern is, we've got to get there early because we got to get through the game day traffic, but the game day traffic is going to be Rutgers. So maybe it'd be a little bit less if it were like Michigan or Michigan State, but no disrespect to Rutgers, but I think the Buckeyes get their momentum. They leave nothing to chance. I don't know that they'll give up more than 10 points. So if they can get to 42, and they look at some of the Rutgers Ohio State scores at Ohio Stadium, they are brutal. But I think the Buckeyes get it done, get to 11-0, and set up rivalry week.
Father Penny liked one of my picks. You see that? I'm not sure which one, but that's a good sign for me. That's a good sign. So let's review 5-pointer. I've got Georgia Tech minus 2.5. I've got USC plus 9.5 on the road. Big swing game. I got NC State on Friday night plus 4.5. Arizona State minus 7 at Colorado, and then I've got Minnesota getting 3.5 at Wrigley Field against Northwestern. And then your 5-pointer is BYU minus 2.5 in your semi-backyard at Nippert. Tennessee minus 4.5, SMU minus 2.5, Oregon giving 9.5 at home, and then Ohio State giving 31.5. You have 5 favorites. No upsets on the Bender slate.
No, I'm not into upsets this week.
Okay, Father Penny likes the USC game, which is the big swing one. So we'll see how it turns out. Let's get back to Troche trivia. Speaking of our big swing game, all right. So Oregon is 7-2 under Dan Lanning against ranked teams at home. They lost to Indiana this year. They lost to Washington and Kalen DeBoer. They have 7 wins against ranked teams against 7 different schools. None this year yet. Can you name the 7 school? How many can you name of the 7?
I can get 6.
Oh,
and I'm fairly confident I have 6. The 7th one I'm blanking on, and I don't think USC is one of them. Otherwise, you wouldn't have asked this question. Ohio State last year.
Correct.
Illinois last year.
Correct.
And then when they were in the Pac-12, there was a game with Cam Ward, Washington State.
Not Washington State.
No. That Washington State team wasn't ranked with Cam Ward when they came in there.
It's not.
Okay. Colorado was there for clicks.
Yes.
They lost by a lot of points. UCLA was probably ranked under Chip at some point.
Yes, 22. UCLA.
Washington before DeBoer. So that's my best guess.
He didn't beat DeBoer. He only played.
I know he didn't beat DeBoer, but did they beat a Washington ranked team?
No.
Okay, so I've got 2 strikes. Utah.
Yes.
That's an easy one. So how many do I have left?
2. You got 1 in 2022 and 1 in 2023. I remember the 23 game. I do not really remember the 22 game.
Is it a Pac-12? Is one of them a Pac-12 game?
Yes.
I've guessed all. Well, USC.
Nope. It was the Civil War.
Oregon State was
How
ranked.
quickly we forget the Civil War used to be good.
And who was the non-con
Oregon
game?
State.
No idea.
In 2022, BYU was ranked.
Oh, yeah. They played them early, didn't they, one year?
They did.
And then, yeah.
So,
Damn.
So very good. Very good. You did a good job. That's a hard one. You got 5 out of 7.
5 out of 7 ain't bad.
So not too bad at all. So, all right. Well, that was really fun. We're excited for week 13. It's going to be good. Thank you to everyone for listening to the CFB Nation podcast, All-America podcast on Spotify and Apple. Thank you to Irish Breakdown, your source for Notre Dame football information. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the games this weekend, and we will see you next week, Tuesday morning, 9:30 Eastern, when we review week 13.